I've made a lot of terrible decisions in life. This is just one I'm adding to the list. But I'm in my LST Crunch, and I'm going to smash up a $300 pair of headers to make clearance. It's Brian with Blackseed. If it's your first time here, thanks for joining. Hit that subscribe button. We're all about cars. We're all about trucks. Still in my LST Crunch, trying to get 65 done. Got a really nice pair of hooker headers here that didn't quite fit. We're going to modify a little bit. We may come back later with something nicer, but man, headers are expensive. You can get some kind of custom, but if you're using like ultimate headers or something, be prepared to spend, you know, $1,000, $1,200, something like that. So I have Vic Jr. heads on the truck, and they're angled plugs, and they just hit the header in the wrong spot. I really don't want to use a street rod style header, which would probably clear those shorties. I don't like seeing the collector coming out and everything. And these were, with the Porterbuilt drop and everything I have on it, these were one of the good ones, right? So these hooker headers, they're pretty nice. They dump out, you know, along the toe board at the back. So here's the plan. And I've already clearanced them. I took a hammer to them. I've spent 3 weeks seeing if anybody else had any ideas. You know, is there a way we could, you know, cut an oval out of it, kind of get a nice dip, weld it back in? I'm sure there is. I'm not that kind of fabricator. Maybe along the way I'll, you know, see if somebody can repair them at that time. But right now I clearanced them with a ball peen, and we're good. We're almost good. Remember, I'm running the plug wires under the header, so the other thing is I need to keep as much heat off of them as I can. I ordered some of these sleeves. Now we do still have to seal these. They make, DEI makes a sealant spray. So we still have to do that. But then I'll run these down the spark plug wires. And honestly, I probably should have got black so they blended better. But we're also going to wrap the headers as well. Couple different things you can do. Stainless zip ties, I don't know, really doesn't work for me. My buddy took a socket and made a slit in it so that the stainless zip tie can slide into the end of the socket, and then when you hit it with the drill, it spins it tight. I've always used stainless safety wire pliers. That's probably what we're going to do on this. Takes a little bit of time, but it's a nice finish on the end. And then the other thing we're going to do to these headers, we're going to add 3-inch V-band clamps. So as you see, I've already cut off the flange that goes to, you know, your old style collector that's just like a big triangle with 3 holes in it. I want a little bit better seal, especially since my O2 sensor is going to be past the headers. I want to make sure these are as nice as possible and sealed as possible, you know, sealed as well as they can be. I'm going to do that V-band clamps like you'd see on turbos. So I'm going to throw this on the chop saw, and I'm going to get right at the end and chop this last flange off, and then I can weld my V-band clamp stuff on. Outside of that, I picked up these Earl Performance. They're basically, they're gaskets, but it's a piece of aluminum, and then they have inserts in them. You can have them pre-cut, or you can cut them yourself. I cut these out to where I am. I'm going to clean up the edges just a little bit more, but you know, it's a chunk of aluminum, so maybe it won't blow out. I always have problems with headers blowing gaskets and everything. Hopefully we'll try that, see how that works. So wrap headers, I got to seal everything, got to put these spark plug boots on, got to put the V-bands on, get everything nice and tightened down. Then I can start setting it up for my 3-inch exhaust, which I'm going to make where you can unbolt with the V-clamp. So should be pretty easy. This part, never made exhaust, should be pretty straightforward. It's not going to be very long yet. Again, I'm trying to get this thing to Lonestar Throwdown, so there will be no bed floor in this thing until I get back, because I have to fabricate the hinges and the whole bed floor. So I'm just going to come out past the cab, dump it down. When I get back, get a little bit more time on it. I may take it further back. I don't have a lot of room going back. I'd like to keep 3-inch, so it may be over the frame and out the front of the tire, basically through the bedside, front of rear tire. So let's get some work done and see how this turns out. So here's where we are. Passenger side header, when I got under to fit it, I noticed that I had some clearance issues because of the hoses that come out of the transmission and my battery cables that run to the back and into the cab and everything. So I ended up deciding to pie cut this header and try to change the angle of it a little bit. I did that, welded it up, and man, I wish I had a TIG and could stack dimes like other people and make it gorgeous, but I'm one hell of a grinder. So I got that's pieces falling out. Anyway, so I got pie cut, welded, cleaned it all up, so looks good. V-band clamp, has plenty of clearance. Just remember, you have to have clearance for that clamp to slip over it and then squeeze down. I'm wearing gloves right now, so reasoning for that is we're about to wrap the headers. Here's what I do. So let's start with a handful of plastic zip ties. That's a great idea for headers, right? And it's just to hold stuff in place, and then once we go along, we'll cut those off. And then I use safety wire. So stainless safety wire pliers. Simple to use. I'll show you how to use it here in a minute. And then for cutting this lava rock, I'm using just some snips instead of dulling. Since I do upholstery, I always need my scissors sharp, and I have dedicated scissors for carpet and everything else, but this stuff will probably dull scissors instantly. So not going to do that, because I'll be pissed off when I go to cut a piece of leather later on and doesn't work. Also, another thing I'm going to do to this header, which I've always done, so with header gaskets blowing out, that's a common theme, right? And then if you get cheaper headers, you'll usually have welds up here on the top side, but like these are hooker headers, so all the welds are on the inside. This is perfectly flat, or should be perfectly flat. Let's check it. So flat, she's good. So here's the trick. A buddy of mine used to work on a vintage funny car, and he worked in a machine shop and built a ton of hot rod engines, old school engines, and their trick was to split this flange. So you'd split it here and here. So basically you're separating these two pipes, and I'm just going to hit with a grinder. You'll never really see the split once it's on the car, but what it allows you to do is you're torquing down the center pipes, you're torquing this pipe separate, you're torquing this pipe separate. I'm not saying it eliminates gasket failure, but that's always been my go-to, and it's helped me because in the past, either this thing is warped or, a weld. And that's the other thing. If you have welds on there, I stopped buying cheap headers because the welds would be on the flange side, and I'd take a hand file and go across it all until it was perfectly flat, and then I would split it. So the center was flat, the ends were flat, and everything was split. It's easier to buy a quality header and then do exactly what I do. Just cut it up and do what you need to do. Anyway, so just planning out the wrap. We'll start with this first single one, and note that this wrap only comes down to, right about here. So basically I'll wrap the first one as far as I can get it, and then I'm going to wrap 3 together and until I can get back here. Just note where your next wrap starts so that you can overlap your first one. You know what I'm saying? So your first one, you want it as far back as possible, but note where your second wrap's going to start around the multiple tubes. That may be confusing as hell, but you'll see in a minute. Again, wearing gloves, even though this is lava rock or whatever it is, or if you're doing the fiberglass ones, they all itch. Long sleeves, gloves. Put lotion on to fill the pores. If you're not familiar with doing fiberglass, lotion on before. Something scented, something nice like a strawberry, whatever. Fill the pores. Long sleeve shirt, gloves, and it'll minimize itching at least. I'm standing here and I can already see just crap floating in the air from this. All right, starting on my first one. I'm getting it started. I'm going to do like 2 or 3 wraps around this thing. And then I'm going to zip tie the first wrap. Alright, so as you can see, we get the first one wrapped. I just threw zip ties on to keep it tight going down through there. Now I'm at my last piece right before I cut, and I'm pulling it down into the header crease so you can see it's staying tight. What I'll do is I'll cut it, and then I'm going to try to get safety wire around this last piece. Alright, so still messing with like 60 foot of this crap. Yes, stainless safety wire. So I may get a better angle on the last one to show you actually how to use the pliers if you've never did it, and then I may do a separate video of just how to use the pliers. They're fairly simple, and these are used in aircraft industry, and you can spend as much as you want on them. I mean, a cheap pair of pliers are $15. Expensive pair of pliers, $200. It's the difference between, Harbor Freight and Snap-on quality, right? But if you're just doing headers, you can pick this stainless lock wire up at Harbor Freight, actually. The 1 pound coil of stainless is probably as much as their wire pliers. If you want to go this route, you can use the zip ties, but for me, safety wire, you can make it look a little better and cleaner, and you can get it tighter. But again, if you can make a tool to kind of tighten, because just like normal pliers on stainless zip ties really don't do much at all. They're pretty hard to get tight. Here's close up. Now that gets it tight. Now there's a couple things you gotta do. Like you don't leave it that long. You snip it and you gotta bend it over. Moving this wrap has an oil in it, and my gloves are just completely oily. Okay, so I cut it and just bent it over. It's probably got 3 turns there at the end. And honestly, like, I have to do it up here at the top. I'll do that, and then this pipe is done. I can cut all those away. I just kind of do it like this to finish mine off. Typically on headers, it's just a twist in the middle and then 2 bars on it. All right. Then you just get rid of your plastic. All right, now I'm going to wrap these tubes and the doubles and then the single, and then we'll wrap everything together. So all right, so there you have it. She's wrapped now. You still see I have a few zip ties. I got to go back over those now and do my safety wire and then cut those off. What I do want to say is, so I wrapped my individual pipes just thinking ahead, because if you end a pipe, you want to make sure that you can still cover that end seam, right? So you look, I did the first pipe and the seam is way back here under this wrap, and I did this end pipe where the seam's right about here. So when I ended up doing the middle, once I got so far back, I could, with the middle pipes, I could cover this bottom pipe with it, and I continue to go back, and then I pull the last pipe in. So that's kind of, see what I'm saying? So I start to weave the other pipe in. So front pipe, rear pipe, and center pipe wraps the bottom pipe in, then pulls in that top pipe. All right, and you see how I did this safety wire. So now we're moving to the center. We're going to safety wire it. And honestly, I really didn't get that zip tie where I wanted it. I needed it further away. No big deal. Originally, it's just trying to squeeze on stuff. So we'll put another one beside it. And the reason for this is, okay, is I need to make room between the flange and the zip tie so I can do my safety wire. So how the safety wire is done is it's got to be long enough to wrap around, do the twist, wrap around a second time, and then this is only one piece, and on the back side of this is the finished twist. Do you see that right there? So we're going to do the same with this. And it's not that it doesn't, It can be long because you can trim it off, right? But so I just went under the first time. Remember, this stainless wire, this won't rust or anything. So I'm just kind of pulling it tight, straightening it. I'm going to make the first twist. And now I'm pulling it together. Oh, and by the way, it goes, safety pliers take it clockwise, so go clockwise. You'll know if not, because once you put it on, it'll just unwrap the first one. So I got it started. But we got to remember, you know, try to keep them the same length. So I'm going to put it where I want to stop. I'm just bringing it out the front side of the pliers. Back side of the pliers have a cutter on them. But see, there's a hole right here, so you can squeeze on it and it's not clipping your wire. What happens here at the back is you squeeze this together, and then this little silver thing just pushes back and locks it. This mechanism's in the tube, right? So you clip your wire, that's all you gotta do. I put my hands on the wire that's getting the twist just to kind of keep it from bending over, and then you just pull out on this piece and it spins. You do that 2 or 3 times. I gotta lay it down here to... Alright. So I got the twist I want, but you see it's still loose right here. We do this last piece manually. Basically putting my pliers at the base. I got these crazy long pieces. I just like to make it hard on myself. Okay, now that's tight. I'll zip the zip tie out the way. Now separate these and go to the back side. Now that's longer than the other one, so I'm going to just unwind it by hand until I get the length I want. Kind of line everything up. Now the back side, I'm just going to kind of start it. Honestly, you don't, if you want to get rid of some of this, you can. Pinching the 2 wires together, maybe. Locking my unit. further up on the wire. I'm going to trim it a little bit. I'm going to get a manual twist here just to see if I can get a hair tighter. Then we'll bend it back. They're finished, they're on. They're super tight and the plug wires are tight behind it. Let's, it's okay. Those sleeves are kind of bulky, but I got one thing to accomplish, and that's not to burn spark plug wires going down the road. And it's tight back here. I got to move around some wires, but all in all, it looks pretty good. Just safety wired them. You can see where I split my flanges, and when I did and lined everything, this one wanted to come up about 1/16 of an inch. This kind of shows flanges may not be perfect. That's it. Passenger side header wrap. I'm working on the drivers now, clearancing and wrapping. The V-bands are a great idea. There's a million different ways to do this. You may think it's right, you may think it's wrong, whatever. I came up as a hot rodder, and for me, some of the older generation that gave me ideas or helped me when I was coming up, I'm self-learned on all this stuff, right? You know, the safety wire, the cutting of the flanges to help it get everything even so that your headers aren't blowing out gaskets. Those are stuff that has stuck with me for the last 20, 25 years. LST Crunch, 2 weeks away, man. I'm going to have no sleep coming up. I'm very close, but it feels like it's a million miles away, even though I'm down to the short list. Until I hit that key and can, you know, put 50 miles on the truck, it still feels unfinished. Even the Cobra, the first 3 times I took it out, being a high dollar finished build, it came back home on a rollback every time. So fingers crossed. I've also had, you know, jalopies that I finished the night before and drove 10 hours away to a show. So hoping this one goes smooth, hoping that when we wrap it up, she'll be reliable right out the gate. But you never know with these cars. At least I'm not jacking with boats. If I don't make my deadline and you see me at LST, I may need the help pushing it in. Thanks for watching. Join me next time. Catch me at LST.